Hello and welcome to another episode of 1000 Actually Fun Books. We're trying to find 1000 actually fun books. And this week, episode 7, we are reviewing A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. This is a nonfiction book about an attempt to walk the entire Appalachian Trail. So the Appalachian Trail, if you're not familiar, it reaches from northern Georgia basically up to Maine, and so practically the entire length of the United States, north and south, and over 2,000 miles. It is an amazing endeavor for those who are actually able to successfully do this. It requires months of effort if you try and do it all at once. So he and his friend, I didn't realize this when I started it, but he has a companion, gets together, and they are not, it's an adventure, yes. Kind of funny on how they try and start doing this, not quite knowing what they're getting into. So it makes for an interesting storyline. The book, however, is not exclusively that. It's probably 60% maybe him and either getting ready for going on the trail, being on the trail, being kind of around the trail, dealing with the trail, at the end of the trail, all that kind of stuff. And the other 40+% of the book is mini essays on things kind of tangentially related to the book. It could be, for example, on a little 2-page thing on bear attacks, or the Ice Age, or Stonewall Jackson, or the coal mining industry in Pennsylvania. I mean, it's all over the board, but kind of, sort of wrapped around his Appalachian Trail journey. Some of those little essays were very interesting and informative. Like some of them, you could tell he really researched before he gave you a huge spew of information. And some of them were just his opinion. So it could be like, for example, he gives a little essay opinion on the American handling of wilderness areas. His opinion on whether you exploit or deify the wilderness, and his opinion on that. So some of those things, like I said, I enjoyed. Some of them were just okay. Some of them I was kind of like, yeah, I don't really agree or like or whatever it is that he's going with that. But if you're reading this book, so it wasn't what I was expecting. So I was expecting it to be all about his journey. Instead, it was a lot more of this other stuff. And it got a farther percentage the farther into the book you went. So you start out the book and there's only a little bit of the essay and a lot more about the trail stuff. The farther you on, that kind of ends up swapping. So it's more essays, very little about the trail. So by the, last little bit of the book, I'm like, oh, come on, another little, divergent trail, bunny trail off on something else. And it was okay about that. It wasn't horrible, but not fantastic. Okay, the things that I liked about this book. So there is a lot of humor. That is one of the things it's known for. Like I said, some of the essay type stuff, very interesting. I do like the plot idea of traveling the Appalachian Trail. So like me personally, when I first heard about traveling the Appalachian Trail, I'm like, oh, that sounds like an amazing adventure. Because it totally strikes me where I like lists and checking things off lists. Like, oh, you could just go and how much effort it would be to try and, slowly check off the entire length of the trail. That would be amazing. And then I thought about it for like 30 seconds more, and I'm like, oh no, that would be miserable. I would hate that. I wouldn't want to do the carrying a pack, and I wouldn't want the bugs, and I wouldn't want the dirt, and I wouldn't want to stink, and oh no, I don't want to do that. It sounds like a grueling trek. Ugh. And that's kind of what he ended up discovering. That's part of the fun of the book of, how much of the trek does he accomplish, and what did he think about it? Did he love it? Did he hate it? Was it somewhere in between? What about his companion? What did his companion think about it? So I did like that a lot. Okay, things I didn't like about this book. So, as I've already mentioned, I didn't love the fact that it was kind of this constant little side note essay thing. They were usually only a couple pages, but it was not what I was looking for, and it was just okay doing that. Because it kind of, to me, I was expecting a book more about the adventure of it, and he could have spent a lot more time on it. Now, granted, he was like, it's another tree, and oh, look, there's another tree. I mean, he was kind of like, there's just nothing happened, so he didn't have enough to write about, I think. But, so he put all this other fluff in to fill out the book. And, that's okay, but I didn't love it. But then we have the thing that I really didn't like about this book, and that comes back to the humor. It was not a nice humor. It was a mean humor. It was constantly poking fun at other people humor, and not in an amusing way. I didn't think so. I mean, some people don't mind this kind of humor, but it really bothered me, because it was constantly saying mean things about others, in kind of a bullying fashion. So I'm going to read you an excerpt from the book on page 106 and 107 to just give you an illustration of the humor and why I didn't like it. So context, Bryson is on the phone with a cab company. I'm going to start with the end of a conversation with one cab company, and then he's going to call another. Okay. How much would it be to take us 20 miles? Dunno. I looked at the receiver. Excuse me, but I have to say this. You are more stupid than a paramecium. Then I hung up. May not be my place to say, Kratz offered thoughtfully, but I'm not sure that's the best way to ensure prompt and cheerful service. I called up another cab company and asked how much it would be to Ernestville. Dunno, said the voice. Oh, for Christ's sake, I thought. What do you want to go there for? Demanded the voice. Pardon? What do you want to go to Ernestville for? It ain't nothing there. Well, actually, we want to go to Spivvy Gap. We're hiking the Appalachian Trail, you see. Oh, Spivvy Gap's another 5 miles. Yeah, I was just trying to get an idea. You should have said so, because Spivvy Gap's another 5 miles. Well, how much would it be to Spivvy Gap, then? Dunno. Excuse me, but is there some kind of gross stupidity requirement to be a cab driver in Gatlinburg? What? I hung up again and then looked at Kratz. What is it with this town? I've blown more intelligent life into a handkerchief. Okay, so that is funny. He has an amusing turn of phrase there, especially at the end. But it's not nice. Like if somebody was sitting next to me making that kind of phone call, I'd be like, oh, ooh. I would just say that to somebody, on the phone, to turn around and say to me something cruel like that, that's just mean-spirited. I don't like that. It would never occur to me to do that to somebody. And now I realize that there's a level of satire here. An exaggeration, making people into caricatures, not real people. And that there's an entire possibility that this conversation did not happen, right? That this is not truthful. But the attitude behind it is still there. And it's throughout the entire book. This is the kind of person he is, the kind of person both people are. And I don't like them as people. They're bullies. I mean, I was looking at it as an analogy, the idea of it being satire. If a bully came up and, laughed at somebody and called them Four Eyes, and turned around to his friends and, expecting them to laugh. And they all, ha ha ha, that was so funny, you called him Four Eyes. And then, a parent, a teacher comes along and was like, you were being a bully. It's like, but it wasn't true. Obviously, this child does not have 4 eyes. So that makes it okay, right? And the answer is no. Just because it's an exaggeration, because it's not actually true, doesn't actually make it okay to be mean to other people. So to me, his whole humorous shtick here, I didn't like at all. And this is throughout the entire book. All the humor has that hint, that touch of cruelty to it. And I do not like that at all. I'll give you another example. I'm not going to read it, but just to give you the summary, paraphrase of what happens. They are up on the mountain trail, and they come to one of the shelters that are offered on the Appalachian Trail. It's a wooden structure, 3-sided with a roof, and you have to share it with anybody else on the trail. So they get in and set up their stuff and hang up their clothes to dry in front of the fire. And then a group of college students come along, and they're like, oh, we have to share. Oh, okay. So they pile in with Bryson and Katz. And they are rude fellow travelers. Like they take off their wet things and shake it out, and in doing so get Bryson and Katz wet. They put their stuff up on the clothesline too, but they shove Bryson and Kat's stuff to the side. Okay, these are rude. They are not good fellow travelers. Okay, totally understand that. Bryson and Katz decide, you know what, we're not going to share the shelter with these people. They just leave just right outside the shelter, set up their tents, sleep there, and the college students party, have a drunken revelry all, into the early hours of the night. It's very rude, very inconsiderate. So the next morning, they get up, and Katz goes to collect their stuff off the clothesline, and when he comes back, he's like, look what I did. And he shows Bryson the shoelaces of one of the college students. And this is meant to be funny. Look, we got back at them for being mean. And I'm sitting there going, that wasn't funny. That was spiteful. That was cruel. I mean, the point of shoelaces is obviously to keep your shoe secure so you don't twist your ankle. I mean, that's actually dangerous to have taken somebody else's shoelaces. I mean, I would never steal from somebody else just because I'm irritated. I did not like this. That's just, I don't like them as people. They're mean. So the humor really did not do it for me. I was very underwhelmed, very unimpressed. So because of that, this book does not make my list. I really wanted it to be on my list. Like, I came into it going, this sounds like it'll be amazing. So many people love this book. And I'm probably going to get pushback because I didn't like it. But my husband, when I was telling him all about this, he's like, this sounds more like it was an okay book rather than, it should be on my list. And I'm like, He's like, well, would you buy another book by this author? And I'm like, no. He's like, would you recommend it to somebody? I'm like, not really. So, yeah, it doesn't qualify to make it to the list. I sit there and I feel apologetic about that because I feel like a whole bunch of people loved this book and that it should be amazing, but it just wasn't. So, sorry, it just is going to end up being on the okay list. Yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. Please feel free to give me your opinion. I mean, if you totally disagree with me, you thought it was hilarious, you think I'm totally taking it too much to heart, feel free to say something. Okay, part 2. The next book is going to be Call of Cthulhu. I don't have something to hold up and show you because I don't have an actual physical book. This is a digital book. So, you get just me saying I'm going to do it. Now, this is outside of my wheelhouse. As I said in the intro, horror is really not my thing. That's kind of very much on the verge of something I don't like. But I want to try it. It's a classic. It's in the public domain. And the idea of an H.P. Lovecraftian horror, and Cthulhu itself is kind of very famous in literature as a very niche genre. So I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's only 80 pages, so it's a very quick read. All right, well, I hope you join me on that and let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time.